The coastal wind carried salt spray through the open windows of the beach house as my sister Victoria stood in the center of the living room, gesturing dramatically to the real estate agent. Her diamond engagement ring caught the afternoon sunlight, throwing prismatic patterns across the weathered hardwood floors. As you can see, this property has been completely neglected, Victoria said, her voice dripping with practiced concern. Our family has tried to maintain it, but honestly, it's been such a burden. The agent, a polished woman named Mrs. Henderson, nodded as she made notes on her tablet. The location is incredible. Oceanfront properties in this area are listing for well over $3 million. I sat in the corner armchair near the bay window, the same spot where I'd spent countless mornings watching the sunrise over the Atlantic. My coffee had gone cold in my hands, but I didn't move. I just watched. 3 million. My mother's voice rose with excitement as she emerged from the kitchen. Victoria, did you hear that? I told you this would be worth it, Mom. Victoria beamed, linking arms with her fiancé, Brandon, who'd been taking photos of the ocean view. This sale is going to transform everything. My brother-in-law-to-be lowered his phone. With that kind of money, we can upgrade the wedding venue to the Grand Coastal Resort, the one with the infinity pool overlooking the marina. And the honeymoon in Bora Bora, Victoria added, practically glowing. First class, overwater bungalow, the works. Mrs. Henderson smiled professionally. Before we proceed with the listing, I'll need to verify some documents. Who currently holds the title? Our father purchased this property back in 1998, Victoria said smoothly, producing a folder from her designer handbag. He passed away 2 years ago. The estate was divided among the family. I took a slow sip of my cold coffee. The lie was so confident, so complete, that even I almost admired the performance. I'm so sorry for your loss, Mrs. Henderson said. Do you have the death certificate and estate documents? Right here. Victoria handed over several papers. Everything was handled through probate. It's all legal and documented. My mother moved closer to the agent. The thing is, our youngest, she gestured vaguely in my direction, without actually looking at me, has been squatting here on and off, making a mess, never paying utilities, treating it like a free vacation spot. I see. Mrs. Henderson's expression became more businesslike. Is the squatter situation resolved? That could complicate the sale. Oh, don't worry about that. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. Jordan barely comes here anymore. Half the time we don't even know where Jordan is. Probably couch surfing with friends or whatever. Brandon snorted, living that minimalist lifestyle. No real job, no real home, just drifting around. So bohemian, my mother said with a tight smile. We've tried to help, but you can't force someone to grow up. I set my coffee cup down on the side table with a soft click. The sound seemed loud in the sudden silence, and 3 pairs of eyes briefly flickered toward me before dismissing me again. Mrs. Henderson cleared her throat. Well, if there are no ownership disputes, we can move forward. I'll need to run a title search, of course. Standard procedure. It should only take a few days. Perfect. Victoria practically vibrated with excitement. How soon can we list? Assuming the title comes back clean, we could have this on the market by next week. Mrs. Henderson walked to the windows, assessing the view. Properties like this don't stay available long. I'd expect multiple offers within the first month. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. A message from my attorney, confirming our meeting scheduled for Friday. I typed a brief response and pocketed the phone. Mom, can you believe this is actually happening? Victoria grabbed my mother's hands. After everything we've been through, we finally have something good coming our way. You deserve it, sweetheart. My mother's eyes glistened with tears. Your father would be so proud of how you've stepped up to handle family responsibilities. The irony was so thick, I could taste it, like the salt air that filled every corner of this house. Brandon moved to stand beside Victoria, wrapping an arm around her waist. We should start planning how to stage the house for showings. Maybe hire a professional cleaning crew. Get rid of all this old furniture. Definitely. Victoria surveyed the room with barely concealed disdain. Most of this stuff is probably from the 90s anyway. Buyers want modern, not nostalgic. Mrs. Henderson made more notes. I can recommend some excellent staging companies. They work miracles with dated properties. This house isn't dated, I said quietly, my first word since everyone had arrived. It's classic coastal architecture. The exposed beams are original cypress. The floors are heart pine. Irreplaceable now. Victoria rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. Jordan, the architecture expert. What do you know about real estate value? Probably more than you'd think. Right. She turned back to Mrs. Henderson. As you can see, There's some emotional attachment here, but business is business. Jordan will just have to accept that this property needs to serve the family's greater good. My mother nodded emphatically. Victoria and Brandon are starting their lives together. They need this. What does Jordan need it for? Occasional weekend getaways. The utilities alone are astronomical, Victoria added. Someone has to pay them, and it's not like Jordan contributes anything. I almost laughed. The utilities were auto-drafted from my business account every month, and had been for the past 5 years. But why introduce facts into their carefully constructed narrative? Mrs. Henderson's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Excuse me, I need to take this. Title company. She stepped onto the deck, her voice becoming muffled through the glass doors. Victoria immediately turned to Brandon, with a squeal of delight. This is really happening. Can you imagine? The Grand Coastal Resort. And that's just the beginning, Brandon said. With our share of the sale, we could buy a condo in the city, something modern with amenities. Your share? I asked, genuinely curious about their math. Victoria's expression hardened. The property belongs to the family. After Mom takes her portion, Brandon and I will split the rest with you. You'll probably get enough for a security deposit somewhere. How generous. Don't start with the attitude, Jordan. My mother's voice took on that familiar edge. We're being more than fair, considering you've contributed nothing to this family. Nothing. The word hung in the air. Name one thing, Victoria challenged. One significant contribution you've made. One time you've helped with family expenses or responsibilities. I could have listed dozens. The property taxes I'd paid, the insurance premiums, the complete roof replacement after the hurricane, the foundation work, the new HVAC system, the legal fees when the county tried to rezone the coastline, the thousands of hours of maintenance and repairs. But I didn't. I just shrugged. That's what I thought. Victoria's voice dripped with vindication. All you do is take. Well, not anymore. This property is going to do some good for people who actually deserve it. Mrs. Henderson returned from the deck, her expression neutral, but somehow different. That was the title company. They're pulling the records now. Should have preliminary results by tomorrow morning. Excellent. Victoria clapped her hands together. Brandon, we should go look at the resort today. See if they have availability for next June. June is peak season. My mother worried. Will they have the terrace available? For $3 million worth of wedding budget, they'll make it available. Victoria linked arms with Brandon again. Mrs. Henderson, you'll call us the moment the title search is complete. Absolutely. I'll need all owners to be present for the listing agreement signing. Owners? My mother frowned. It's just Victoria and myself. Jordan isn't technically an owner. Well, let's see what the title search says. Mrs. Henderson's smile was professionally ambiguous. Sometimes estate divisions can be complex. There's nothing complex about our situation, Victoria said firmly. Dad's will was very clear. Everything was split between his wife and his responsible adult children. I stood up, stretching slightly. I should get going. I have a meeting across town. Don't you want to hear more about the sale? My mother's tone suggested this was somehow a test of my character. I'm sure you'll fill me in on anything important. Victoria laughed. Anything important? Jordan, this is the most important thing happening in this family. But sure, go ahead and run off to whatever you do all day. I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. Mrs. Henderson, it was nice meeting you. I'm sure we'll talk soon. The agent gave me an appraising look, the kind that suggested she'd seen enough family dynamics to recognize when something didn't add up. I look forward to it. As I walked to my car, I could hear Victoria's voice carrying through the open windows, already planning furniture removal schedules and discussing commission rates. The sound faded as I drove away from the beach, toward the cluster of office buildings that marked the commercial district. My attorney's office was in a renovated historic building downtown. Margaret Chen had been my lawyer for 7 years, handling everything from business contracts to the trust documents my father had established long before his death. Jordan, she greeted me in the lobby. Right on time. Come on back. Her office overlooked the harbor, boats bobbing gently in their slips. Margaret gestured to the familiar leather chair across from her desk. I got your message about the property situation. Your sister is attempting to sell. Attempting is the right word. She's got a real estate agent, a buyer lined up, and a fantasy wedding budget all planned out. Margaret's expression remained neutral, but I caught the slight tightening around her eyes. And the title search, being processed as we speak, should be complete by tomorrow, which means by tomorrow afternoon, you'll be getting some very interesting phone calls. Margaret pulled up a file on her computer. Let's review the trust documents one more time. Make sure everything is airtight. For the next hour, we went through every detail of the irrevocable trust my father had established in 2015, 3 years before his death. The trust that named me as the sole beneficiary of the beach property. The trust that had been properly filed, recorded, and maintained through every legal channel required by state law. Your father was very specific about his wishes, Margaret said, highlighting a particular clause. He wanted to ensure that the property would be protected for you, regardless of any family pressures or circumstances. He knew Victoria would do something like this. He knew families could be complicated, especially around valuable assets. Margaret closed the file. The trust is ironclad. Your sister has no legal claim to the property whatsoever. Neither does your mother. They think they're selling it for $3 million. They can think whatever they want. The title search will show you as the sole legal owner through the trust. Any attempted sale without your signature would be void. I leaned back in the chair, watching the boats in the harbor. Victoria's planning her dream wedding with money she doesn't have. That's unfortunate, but it's not your responsibility. You didn't create this situation, Jordan. She did, by assuming rather than verifying. My mother will say I should just give them the property, for family, and you're free to make that choice if you want, but it would require you to voluntarily transfer ownership, and frankly, given their behavior, I'd advise strongly against it. Margaret's expression softened. I know this isn't easy. Family conflicts never are. They think I'm a failure. No job, no home, just drifting through life. You run a successful remote consulting business, you've maintained that property impeccably, and you've built a life that works for you. Their perception doesn't change reality. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Mom and I are making a list of everything that needs to be thrown out of the beach house. Do you have anything there you actually care about, or can we just clear it all? I showed Margaret the message. She shook her head. They're going to be very surprised. Should I warn them? That's entirely your call. Legally, you don't owe them advance notice. The title search will speak for itself. I thought about it for a moment, then typed back. I care about all of it. Don't throw anything away. Victoria's response came within seconds. Fine, but you need to come get your stuff before the staging crew arrives next week. We're not running a storage facility for your beach bum lifestyle. Margaret glanced at the exchange. For what it's worth, you're handling this with remarkable patience. My father taught me that sometimes the best response is no response at all. Just let the truth reveal itself. Wise man. Margaret printed out several documents and slid them across the desk. These are copies of the trust, the deed, and the tax payment records for the past 5 years. You might want to have them handy. I folded the papers and tucked them into my jacket pocket. Thank you, Margaret, for everything. That's what you pay me for. Though I have to admit, I'm curious to see how this plays out. You and me both. The next morning, I was sitting on the deck of the beach house, watching pelicans dive for fish in the surf, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Jordan Matthews speaking? This is David Sung, from Coastal Title and Escrow. I'm calling regarding the property at 847 Ocean Vista Drive. Are you available to discuss some findings from our title search? I am. Excellent. I've also got Mrs. Henderson from Premier Coastal Realty on the line. We encountered some unexpected results in the property records. Mrs. Henderson's voice joined the call. Mr. Matthews, I apologize for the confusion, but it appears there may have been a misunderstanding about the property ownership. What kind of misunderstanding? I kept my tone neutral. David cleared his throat. Our search shows that the property is held in an irrevocable trust established in 2015 by Robert Matthews. The sole beneficiary and current legal owner is listed as Jordan Lee Matthews. Is that you? It is. Silence on the line for a beat. Mrs. Henderson spoke carefully. Mr. Matthews, when we met yesterday, your sister indicated that she had legal authority to sell the property as part of an estate division. My sister was mistaken. I see. More silence. And the documents she provided regarding the estate. My father's estate did go through probate. The will divided most of his assets among family members, but the beach house wasn't part of the probate estate, because it had already been transferred into the trust years earlier. David's keyboard clicked in the background. That's consistent with what we're seeing in the records. The trust transfer was filed and recorded in 2015, well before Mr. Robert Matthews' death in 2023. Mrs. Henderson's voice took on a professional chill. Mr. Matthews, are you saying that your sister and mother have no ownership claim to this property at all? That's correct. And you were present during our entire conversation yesterday. I was. Why didn't you mention this? You didn't ask me anything. You spoke with Victoria. I paused. I assumed she'd done her due diligence before hiring a real estate agent. David jumped in, clearly trying to de-escalate. Mr. Matthews, do you have any intention of selling the property? No. I understand, Mrs. Henderson. I'll send you the complete title report, but the short version is that Jordan Matthews is the sole owner. Any sale would require only his signature, and no one else's. Mrs. Henderson's sigh was audible. Thank you, David. Mr. Matthews, I apologize for the confusion. I'll be contacting your sister to inform her that we cannot proceed with the listing. I appreciate your professionalism, I said. After we ended the call, I sat in the quiet morning, waiting. It took exactly 12 minutes. My phone exploded with incoming calls. Victoria. Mom. Victoria. Again. A text from Brandon. More calls from Victoria. I let them go to voicemail. Finally, a text from Victoria appeared. Call me right now. What did you do? I typed back. I didn't do anything. I've been sitting on my deck all morning. The agent called. She says the property is in your name, that you own it. That's impossible. It's not impossible. It's documented fact. Dad put the beach house in a trust for me 7 years ago. My phone rang again. This time I answered. You knew. Victoria's scream probably could have been heard without the phone. You sat there yesterday, and let us plan everything, knowing it was all a lie. I didn't lie. You did. What are you talking about? You told Mrs. Henderson that you had authority to sell the property. You showed her estate documents that were irrelevant. You presented yourself as the owner. I just sat in the corner drinking coffee. You should have said something. Why? You were very clear that I contribute nothing to this family, and know nothing about real estate. Why would my opinion matter? I could hear my mother's voice in the background, high-pitched and frantic. Victoria was apparently on speakerphone. Jordan, this is your mother. This is ridiculous. Your father would never have left that entire property to you alone. He did. In 2015, 3 years before he died. That's impossible. He would have told us. He told me. He said he wanted to make sure I had a stable home base, regardless of what happened with the family dynamics. I paused. Looks like he was pretty smart about predicting those dynamics. Victoria's voice returned, tight with fury. You're going to give us our share. We're family. You just spent the last 24 hours calling me a squatter, a freeloader, and a beach bum with no job and no future. You were planning to throw out all my belongings and split money that was never yours. Now you want to talk about family. Don't be petty, Jordan. We made a mistake, okay? We thought the property was part of the estate. It's an honest error. An honest error would be checking the actual ownership before hiring a real estate agent. What you did was assume you could take what you wanted. My mother's voice grew louder. Jordan Lee Matthews, you listen to me. That property has been in this family for decades. You cannot just keep it for yourself. Mom, Dad legally transferred it to me 7 years ago. It's been mine longer than I've been an adult. I've paid every bill, every repair, every tax assessment. You want to know what I contribute to the family? Ask the county tax assessor. Ask the insurance company. Ask the roofing contractor, who replaced the entire structure after Hurricane Laura. Silence. You never told us you were paying for those things. My mother said finally, her voice smaller. You never asked. You assumed I was squatting and freeloading. It was easier to believe I was a failure than to actually check the facts. Victoria's voice came back, different now, calculating. Fine. You own the house. We get that. But Mom and I have been maintaining it too. We deserve compensation for our time. When's the last time either of you was here before yesterday? Another silence. Exactly. I stood up, walking to the deck railing. The ocean stretched endlessly toward the horizon, the same view my father had loved. The truth is you didn't care about this property until you realized it was worth money. Now you want to cash in on something you had nothing to do with maintaining or protecting. So that's it. Victoria's voice cracked. You're just going to keep everything and cut us out. I'm going to keep what's legally mine. Yes, just like you were planning to do yesterday when you thought you owned it. This is different. How? No answer. My mother's voice was thick with tears. Jordan, please. Victoria needs this for her wedding. She's your sister. And yesterday she was happy to leave me with enough for a security deposit somewhere. Now that the tables are turned, suddenly I'm supposed to be generous. That's what family does. They help each other. You're right, Mom. Family should help each other. Maybe you should have remembered that before you called me a squatter in my own home. I heard Brandon's voice now, trying to be reasonable. Look, Jordan, let's all calm down. We can work something out. Maybe you could take out a home equity loan. Give us our share that way. My share of what, Brandon? The property you don't own, the money you were never entitled to. The family share, man. Come on, there is no family share. There's my property, which my father gave to me, and which I've maintained and protected for years. That's the beginning and end of the legal reality. Victoria's voice turned vicious. You know what? Fine, keep your precious beach house, but don't come crying to us when you need help. Don't expect to be invited to family events. Don't think you're walking me down the aisle at my wedding. I wasn't planning to. Have a nice day, Victoria. I ended the call and blocked all 3 numbers. The silence that followed was profound, just the sound of waves and seabirds and wind in the sea oats that grew along the dunes. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Margaret. I assume by now they've been informed. Yes. How are you holding up? Better than expected. Turns out standing up for yourself feels pretty good. It does indeed. Let me know if you need anything. I pocketed my phone and walked down the weathered steps to the beach. The sand was cool under my feet, the morning sun warm on my face. This place, this home had been my sanctuary for years. My father had understood that I needed roots, even if those roots looked different from what the family expected. A week later, I received a certified letter. Inside was a legal document from an attorney I didn't recognize. Victoria and my mother were suing for unjust enrichment and constructive fraud, claiming that my father had been unduly influenced when he created the trust. I forwarded it to Margaret, who called me within the hour. This is completely without merit, she said flatly. Your father was mentally competent. The trust was properly executed, and there's a 7-year paper trail of you maintaining the property. They don't have a case. They're desperate. They're embarrassed. Your sister apparently told everyone at her engagement party that she was selling a multi-million-dollar beach house. Now she has to explain why that's not happening. That must be uncomfortable. Jordan, this lawsuit is going to cost them legal fees they can't recover. I can file a motion to dismiss, and it will almost certainly be granted. But I want to make sure you understand. This could get uglier before it gets better. I understand. And you're okay with that. I looked around my home office, where I'd built a business that let me work from anywhere, including this beautiful property my father had ensured would always be mine. I'm okay with it. The motion to dismiss was filed 3 weeks later. The judge granted it without even requiring a hearing, citing the clear documentation of the trust and the lack of any supporting evidence for Victoria's claims. Victoria's attorney withdrew from the case the same day. My mother called from a different number, getting through before I realized who it was. Jordan, please, she said immediately. This has gone too far. Victoria's wedding is in 6 months, and she can't afford the venue she wants. Can't we just talk about this? There's nothing to talk about, Mom. The property is mine. That's not going to change. But you don't even live there full time. You're there maybe half the year. Why do you need such a large house? Because I want it. Because Dad wanted me to have it. Because I've earned it through years of care and maintenance. Take your pick. This is so selfish, Jordan. You know what was selfish, Mom? Trying to sell my property without my permission, calling me a squatter, planning to throw out my belongings. That was selfish. We made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to believe the worst about me. You chose to assume rather than ask. You chose to value Victoria's wedding over any relationship with me. Those were choices, not mistakes. So you're just going to cut off your family over a house? No, Mom, you cut me off years ago. You just didn't realize it until there was something you wanted from me. She was crying now. Please, Jordan, I'm sorry. We're all sorry. Can't we move past this? Moving past it would require you to actually see me as a person, not as an obstacle to what you want. When you're ready to do that, give me a call. I hung up gently this time. 6 months later, I saw Victoria's wedding photos on social media. They'd gotten married at a small venue, nothing like the grand coastal resort she'd planned. The pictures were lovely though. She looked happy. I hoped she was. I also noticed I wasn't in any of the photos, not even the extended family shots. It was like I'd been erased. That was fine. I'd built my own life, my own family of friends and colleagues, who valued me for who I actually was, not what they could get from me. The beach house stood solid against the Atlantic storms, just as my father had known it would. And I stood solid too, grounded in the truth of who I was and what I'd earned. Some people might call that selfish. I call it self-respect. And every morning when I watch the sunrise from my deck, I thank my father for giving me both the property and the example of how to protect what matters. The waves keep rolling in, constant and unchanging, and I'm still here in my home, exactly where I belong.